East Broadtop was the last common carrier narrow-gauge railroad to operate east of the Mississippi River, connecting with the Pennsylvania Railroad at Mount Union and then running through Rockhill Furnace and into Robertsdale, Pennsylvania. The railroad by the mid-1950s became a major focus for rail fans. Trains loaded with coal and ganister rock became the most frequently seen type of traffic on the line in later years, with the railroad's roster of 6 282 Mikados in charge of the trains. It is February of 1956 and we chase this speeder heading for Mount Union out of Orbisonia. Engine 17 is backing down from Alvin above Woodvale. The 17 is a 282 Mikado built by Baldwin in March of 1918 and pulled the last two revenue freight trains on the East Broadtop in 1956. The 17 continues backing its train from Woodvale towards Robertsdale. Cars are weighed at Robertsdale as the 17 performs switching chores and takes on water. When these sequences were taken in March of 1956, the East Broadtop had only 1 month left as a common carrier railroad. With its charter dating back to 1856 and its completion into Orbisonia from Mount Union in 1873, the East Broadtop is also the oldest surviving narrow-gauge railroad in the United States. The 17 takes on water before running around the Y at Robertsdale. We follow the 17 and its train down into the valley towards Cooks. The 17 and train roll alongside the pond at Saltillo. The train rolls through 3 springs before passing through Pogue. The 17 in their train, after rolling through Pogue, make their way toward Orbisonia. Technically, the Orbisonia station is within the limits of Rockhill Furnace. Due to other areas named Rockhill within the Commonwealth, less than carload freight was often shipped to the wrong town. Even though the village of Orbisonia itself was a quarter-mile across the creek from Rockhill Furnace, the station was named Orbisonia so shipments would be able to arrive to the right customers. We chase the 17 with its freight train out of Orbisonia and towards Mount Union. The 17 starts working the grade above Ogwick. Pacing of the 17 continues near Allenport. The train enters dual-gauge trackage coming into Mount Union. Mount Union was where the conversion from narrow gauge back to standard gauge occurred, as well as the forwarding of traffic to the Pennsylvania Railroad. East Broadtop standard gauge 060 number 3 switches the yard. East Broadtop standard gauge number 3 is actually the railroad's third number 3, being built new for the railroad by Baldwin in 1923. It was also the last locomotive to run in common carrier operation when it moved the last of the cars from the East Broadtop to the Pennsylvania Railroad interchange. Here we get a nice look at dual gauge operation with the 17 and the 3 on the same track. The 17 runs around the Y at Mount Union for the return trip. The 17 rolls through Shirleysburg heading back toward Orbisonia. The 17 and its train continue to work just outside of Orbisonia. In addition to the Orbisonia station, Rockhill Furnace was also the main servicing terminal for the narrow gauge on the East Broad Top. We get a look at the roundhouse and a view of the equipment around the yards at Orbisonia. After abandonment and being purchased by the Kowalczyk Salvage Company, the East Broad Top lay dormant for 4 years. On August 13, 1960, the railroad reopened as a tourist operation. Number 14 is making an early tourist run in 1964. This 282 Mikado was built by Baldwin in October of 1912. The surviving remnants of the East Broad Top that operate as a tourist line go as far as Colgate Grove. For ease of operation, a Y was put in there in 1961. Even with its preservation solidified as a tourist operation and being registered as a National Historic Landmark in 1964, the East Broad Top even now has not been without a turbulent operating history. In 1982, the Friends of the East Broad Top was organized to continue funding to keep operating the railroad. The 80s and 90s saw reduced operating schedules and several political reorganizations to keep the railroad running. The 14 continues toward Colgate Grove with its 4-car consist. Number 14 heads back for Orbisonia after turning around at Colgate Grove. The engine is sporting a tourist railroad livery with brass bands on the boiler and white walls. We get a look at the roundhouse at Rockhill, along with some preserved East Broadtop equipment at Orbisonia and Johnstown 311, the first car to run at the brand new Rockhill Trolley Museum, opened in 1963. By the beginning of the 1990s, the East Broadtop and the Rockhill Trolley Museum were well-established preservation operations in Pennsylvania. A major event held every year was their Fall Spectacular, which featured every one of the restored 282s in operation. Number 14 is backing onto the turntable at Rockhill. The number 12 pulls into Orbisonia with a 4-car passenger train. Cars from the Rockhill Trolley Museum are standing by near Orbisonia. These sequences were taken during the 1990 Fall Spectacular and featured 282's number 12, 14, 15, and 17 all operating solo and double heading on passenger and photo freight consists. At Enyart Road, we get another view of number 12 heading back out toward Colgate Grove. Numbers 14 and 17 double head a photo freight towards McMullen's Summit. Number 15 follows behind the doubleheader with its safety valve lifted. In 1999, the East Broadtop was added into the zoning of Allegheny Ridge State Historic Park. However, by the late 2000s, with a downturning economy and tourist traffic slowing down, the railroad was forced to close its doors at the end of the 2011 operating season. In 2020, the railroad was purchased by the East Broadtop Foundation, and rehabilitation of the locomotives, facilities, and right-of-way began. And in February of 2023, steam returned to the East Broadtop with the restoration of 282 number 16. The 14 and 17 return to Orbisonia with the photo freight, followed by number 15. Now back at Orbisonia, the 14 and 15 drift into the station as they prepare to doublehead a passenger train to Colgate Grove. '14 and 15 climb the grade on Longfill, heading back toward Orbisonia. Number 17 rolls back into Orbisonia, leading the photo freight consist. '14 and 15 head out of Orbisonia again with another departure for Colgate Grove. This look back at the East Broad Top concludes with the doubleheader arriving back into Orbisonia.